Look at that. December 26th, it's 60 degrees and breezy. And usually, this time of year when it gets like that, it means rain. So, while the getting's good, I'm going to do some outdoor cooking. Going to be making a chicken stew. And the green egg, I'm going to be using that cast iron Dutch oven. And it's going to have a cornbread crust, so it's a kind of a different twist on chicken pot pie. Get everything set up and bring y'all along. It's a great day for this. One thing I'm going to do as I cook outside and have the day off, I'm going to enjoy Kim's Christmas present to me, and I don't get this stuff very often. This is definitely a treat. But this is probably, in my opinion anyway, the best tasting 12-year-old single malt scotch that I've ever found. And I can't find this everywhere for whatever reason. But it's really good. It's the Dalmore, and it is a single malt 12-year-old scotch. I'll just cut the seal this way. But yeah, oh yeah. Goodness gracious. Well, I'm going to get into my cooking a little bit before I actually enjoy, but yeah, what a nice Christmas present. Now some people will go into the onion like this. Never really saw the need for that, because the little segments will come apart pretty easily. You can still get a good dice doing it that way. I'm gonna let this start cooking up, and the weather, it's not really gotten horrible, but I had to take that swing weight from the wind chime up there and put it up on the shelf because it was getting a little obnoxious. Too much of a good thing, kind of. But you see the sky, it's gotten a little foreboding. They're calling for some showers, and generally, like I said, when we get warm winds out of the south in the wintertime, it usually means precipitation. But no problems, because we are under a nice roof here, so, you know, let it rain. Yeah, I couldn't pass up the nice weather. I'm standing out here in shirt sleeves and just loving it. Okay, our temp's up closer to where we want it. And I've already put some canola oil down in this cast iron Dutch oven. And I don't season my meat before I sear it, because searing takes place at a very hot temperature and you tend to burn any seasoning you put on there. Really, what searing does is adds a flavor. Some people say it seals in the juices, but you know, that's not really true. It is strictly for flavor. And we're going to lay them in there, and you can see that's really nice. It's going to go about 2 to 3 minutes aside, flip them over, and then we're going to take them out, cover them, and then we're going to get our onions and garlic in there. Then we're going to season. All right, time to turn them over. That's a nice brown color right there. 3 more minutes, and then we'll pull them out of there. Let them rest for a little bit, cover them, and then we'll get our onions and our garlic in, and then our first layer is seasoned long enough. We're going to take the chicken out of there. And whether you're cooking on cast iron, in the kitchen I use the hard anodized aluminum cookware, and I've never had a problem with, you know, food sticking. And the thing about it is, the general rule is hot pan, cold oil, let the oil come up to the temperature of the pan, and then add your food. And nearly all food will stick right at the outset. But when the food reaches a point of doneness, it will release, as we call it. when it's ready to turn. So the key is patience. And if you're still, after the set amount of time, if you're still getting food sticking, you might need to look at other things. But if you notice, this chicken did not stick in the least, and it's nicely seared. But it's all about your cooking technique and patience, really. So while that pan is still hot, and there's a lot of nice little brown bits down there, basically what we're going to do is deglaze. Now normally I would add garlic right first, but this is a hot pan and I don't like the taste of burned garlic. So the onions that we just put in, they're gonna bring the temperature of the pan down, plus I had the lid open. And at this point I'm going to shutter my heat from the bottom. And then the top of this, now I'm going to add my garlic, just in a mound on top. That's about 2 tablespoons of minced garlic. And now is when I'm going to season. This is just a little bit of pink Himalayan salt. And then some black pepper. I do like pepper. Yes, you can cook on a green egg. You are going to singe your arm a little bit. I'm used to it. That with this and fireplaces too. Now this, we're just reusing this this bottle, but this is our own crushed red pepper. We're going to go a little sparingly, but we're not scared of this stuff. So I'm going to shake in there what amounts to about, there we go, about a 1/4 teaspoon, and give it a stir. Now before that dries out, I'm going to get the wooden spatula, and I want to scrape those little bits that were stuck to the bottom of the pan off and into the mix. That's where the flavor comes from. And all I want to do is scrape up what is on the bottom of that pan, and it's coming off really easily now that we've added some moisture. That red pepper is potent, and I'm already starting to get a good color in my onions. I don't want to caramelize them too much beyond that. Alright, now the best way to control temperature of the green egg is to do this. Just shutter the air. It's all about airflow with this stuff. So already that updraft has slowed down a lot. And we're just going to let those saute, basically, for just a little bit. And, whew, I think that's probably all this red pepper I'm going to use. I'll tell you what, it's, wow. Just shaking it in there, and that little bit of dust is waking my sinuses up. So we're going to get the chicken covered, and we're going to get the next layer of flavors out here and ingredients, and then we're going to start cooking our stew. Okay, those have caramelized just about where I want them. Just a nice, well, I'll show you some. Just a nice brown color. Boy, that red pepper is still potent. Jeez. Alright, so in here, got a couple of cups of sweet potatoes out of the garden. And I'm going to go ahead and mix them in. Boy, I've got to stand upwind of this. And you might have noticed, that's an unpeeled sweet potato. Very well scrubbed, but unpeeled. This is the best part, the most nutritious part of the potato. I mean, this is good too, lots of fiber in that, but this is the really nutritious part, even on a white potato. If you can stand it, if you can break tradition, don't peel your potatoes. Alright, so with that in there, that's just about a cup of water. And that's going to start everything kind of melding together and slow down the cooking, because now we're stewing. And I put the sweet potatoes in first because they're going to take the longest to kind of tenderize. And it's been long enough on the chicken. I'm going to start dicing the chicken up into nice stew-sized pieces. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get our chicken cut up. And these are pretty thick chicken breasts, so I'm going to cut them long ways first. And although this meat looks white right now, I don't think its internal temperature reached a safe level. It maybe got close, but... So the next layer is going to be carrots. These are out of the garden. Well scrubbed, unpeeled, and boy, did I just fog up my glasses. Wow. Alright. And then this is about a cup and a half of a 50-50 mixture of kale and parsley, which is still doing nice out in the garden. It's still doing very well, but just very finely chopped. So that's going to go in there. And then these are Brussels sprouts right out of the garden. And they're going to have a little bit of time to cook, just as the sweet potatoes and the carrots. So, one more stir. Well, there's a big Brussels sprout in there. Hold on. Let's get that cut up. That's a big Brussels sprout. That's almost like a little head of cabbage. There we go. All right. A lot of nice colors in here. There we go. Now, stir all this together, mix it in. That's going to be a good stew. I guess it's a pot pie is what we're going to make, but with a cornbread crust. Don't know if you can see down here. Yeah, you can see in there. We're going to cover it. We're going to add it just about last, but I'm going to go in the house. I'm going to open that up, and I'm going to go for about 350, something like that. And just experience with your grill. We'll show you what you need your settings at, but if I open the shutter here, and I know where to put my air shutter down here, that's going to level off at about 350, and that's where we want it for the biggest part of the cooking. I'm going in the house now. I'm going to make about 6 cups of good thick gravy that's going to go on here as soon as it's done, and then it's going to cook together a little bit, and then the cornbread layer will go on, and this is going to be ready to eat. That's smelling good. That's going to be a good stew. I'll take this moment to say, Mr. Pat the Landlord Bennett, I know it's not Captain Morgan, but I'll tell you what, ahoy, brother. Hope you had a good Christmas, man. And Kim is working in the other room, so I'm going to keep my noise level down a little bit. But we're getting ready to make a lot of gravy. There we go. Get my tools of the trade. So in here, I have 8 tablespoons of canola oil, and got it brought up to a pretty high temp. 8 tablespoons of whole wheat flour, and the only other ingredients are some chicken stock. Let me move this in. That's 6 cups of chicken stock, and then 2 cans of bits and pieces, mushrooms, and then we're just going to season this with just some salt and some pepper to get to the right temperature. And honestly, the idea of a roux is to cook the flour, so you get that raw taste out of it. And you don't want your oil quite at smoke point, but you want it hot enough to where you're going to toast this flour. And we're just about there with this, so yeah, you can hear it sizzle. So there we go. Get every little piece of it in there that we can. Now that you have the flour introduced into the oil, you want to keep it moving. You don't want it to burn. You know you've gotten just about the right mix. After you start whisking this, and I use a whisk, you can use a wooden spoon or spatula, just whatever. There we go. And although this starts out brown just because of the nature of the whole wheat flour, I'm waiting for this to toast a little bit. You can just watch the color, but you need to keep it moving because your roux on the bottom can be a lot more done than you think. And you can smell it. It smells like toasting bread because it basically is what it is. All right, it's time to add our liquid in there. This is going to be lively, very lively. Do it slowly. That'll calm down a little bit, but it's messy just by its nature. So that's all of our stock. And at this point, I like to wipe off before this stuff hardens on with the heat. Stuff has a tendency to go everywhere. Alright, now what we want to do, we're going to bring this up to a boil. I'm increasing my heat. And I'm not adding the mushrooms yet or any seasonings. What I want to happen here is the interaction between the starches and the liquid we just added. And it makes those starches kind of plump up and absorb some of that moisture, and that's what we know as gravy. Alright, so we have our boil now, and we're just stirring it and let that reaction occur. And boy, I almost didn't bring enough pot to the gunfight here, but it'll be fine. But now is when the reaction between the liquids and the starches starts occurring, and it will start thickening. Before it does that too much, though, we're going to add it out to the other ingredients, and we're going to let that thickening occur right there in the cast iron Dutch oven. So now is when I want to add my Stinson pieces, liquid included, because that's great flavor. There we are, and we have not seasoned this with anything. So at this point, I'm going to put some salt and black pepper. And what I'm going to do is let that increase to a simmer. And then all of this is going out, and we're dumping into that oven. I'm going to move you outside so we can get all that. Out here to put the gravy in, the temperatures come up to 350, and that stuff is well on its way to becoming done. So we're going to add all of this gravy. There we are. And just stir that in. And we're going to let this slow cook for just a little bit. Probably about 45 minutes or so. And you notice me scraping. And that's to get the flavor that is stuck to the bottom of the pan, if there is any sticking, up and in suspension in the food to where it can actually do some good. And at this point, and we got everything well mixed, so I'm just going to take a swipe and a taste and see if I need to season right now. And I don't. That's really good. And the Dalmore was very good. I finished it, and it's been replaced by a nice steaming cup of fresh hot coffee in my IH mug. This is when the dish just got better. There we are. Alright, we're going to go wash this board and this knife off real well. Get a fresh towel. And let this do its thing. Chicken pot pie, green egg style. And it just has that hint of charcoal smoke. These green eggs don't overly smoke things. If you're not a fan of that charcoal flavor, by all means, you can cook this on your range top in the kitchen. Okay, we're just going to give things a stir here. It's simmering nicely, and it's starting to thicken a little bit more. I don't want it to thicken too much beyond this, and I don't think that it will. But yeah, it's got a nice little bubble going on. And again, the seasonings are just right. Time to add the cornmeal mix in there, and that stew is looking pretty nice. Now, this is not going to brown like a traditional cornbread will, because we're cooking it at about 100 degrees less, but it's still going to cook through and through. So, it's going to take, and then I'd mix this up pretty thick, if you can see, and that's what I want. But I don't want to just pour this and let it sink. I want to spread it around and let it rise. It's kind of like a big dumpling. Spread it around a little bit. And I'm not really worried about it. It's going to rise up and cook. And when it's all finished, it's going to be above that stew. It's time to put the lid on here, but rather than put a cold cast iron lid on this thing, because it's just going to rob all the heat as the hot goes to cold, and that's a pretty massive cast iron lid, and it's going to probably have an adverse effect on what I want, which is everything to finish cooking and that bread to get somewhat browned. I put the lid in there on the burner, and I've had it heating up for about a good 10 minutes. So it's going to take some slip joint pliers, go out there and grab it by the lid or the handle, come it out here and lid this thing up. Hey, this thing is sizzling hot, which is what I want. There go my glasses again, fogging up. Navigating by feel here. There we go. So that's in there now. And I'm just going to keep the heat shuttered down a little bit. This is what I mean by snuffing the egg. You just take your all-purpose cast iron lid off of there, and you put this ceramic lid on there, and it has a gasket around there. And then you close your air shutter at the bottom completely. And once that consumes all of its oxygen, the fire goes out pretty quickly. That's one of the nice things about these green eggs, is after you snuff them, the charcoal that you have in there that is unburned is ready for use the next time you go for it.
Is this a bowl meal or is this a plate meal?
I think this is a... Well, let's see what it looks like first.
All right.
It may be takeout pizza. Alright, I haven't looked at this.
Okay.
I haven't peeked.
Okay.
This is as real as it gets. So,